Hello, YouTube. We are now into the original Star Wars trilogy, and I'm on Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, or just Star Wars, depending on the fan base you talk to, everyone will call it a different name. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, Star Wars, A New Hope. It's all different. Star Wars fans, myself included, are different than every other fan base. There are some that think Episode 4 is the holy grail of the Star Wars franchise. It isn't for me, although it is mind-blowing. This movie came out in 1977. That is a long time ago, and it still holds up pretty well. Now, granted, I watched the remasters. I watched the Lucas cuts where there's bonus scenes added in that weren't in the original, and things were just tweaked and cleaned up a little bit. Personally, I don't think the changes make that much of a difference, and it's okay for me. So I'm just going to be talking about the movie generically, and of course in detail. Spoilers. Um, if it matters, personally, I think anyone that wants to see this movie is going to see this movie or has seen it. So I feel quite comfortable talking about it. Star Wars Episode 4 tells the story of Luke Skywalker. At this point, he's kind of a young man, young adult. He's very uncomfortable living in his home situation. He wants a better life. He knows that he believes that his father died in the rebellion and that he was a good man, but that he maybe wasn't what he was supposed to be. That's what his Uncle Owen tells him. It's a very slow movie. Rewatching it again, I was just reminded what a slow movie this is. And there are a lot of characters, and Darth Vader, for me, is one of the best villains, anti-villains, whatever you want to call it, in history. You look at a lot of top best villains in cinema history, Darth Vader is usually pretty close at the top of the list. This movie, you don't learn much about him. There's very little you hear about him. Except the one line that Grand Moff Tarkin says to Vader, that's when they're talking about Obi-Wan being in the Death Star, and he says, to Vader, "You, my friend, are all that's left of their religion," which tells you that Vader was once a Jedi, which, if you had seen this movie in theaters in 1977, if you're one of those people, then that would be of interest to you, thinking, oh, Vader maybe was once a Jedi. That's an interesting fact. But to those that grew up seeing the prequels first, it's not much of a surprise. Myself, I watched the original trilogy first growing up, and then I went back and saw the prequels. And then, of course, Force Awakens and Last Jedi. And New Hope, for me, is a very slow movie. It goes from Luke wanting more, staring off at the twin suns. Luke's character, he's very whiny, he's very complainy, he's very immature at this point, which makes sense because over the course of the trilogy, his character has an arc. And I will probably discuss that more in the following movies. But Luke in this movie, he's very immature. He's very, that he doesn't really know what he wants. He's wanting everything right now. And when, his uncle wants him to do something, he complains, but I was going to buy some power converters. And he's very whiny. And I didn't quite remember him being the kind of character that he is in this movie. And it is very clear that George Lucas didn't really intend on making sequels after this one, because really, this movie ends with a sense of finality. There's the award sequence at the end, and you get the feeling, hey, we destroyed the Death Star, the battle is won. And the movie ends. You don't really get the sense of, yeah, he's going to make another one. So that was also unexpected to me. I hadn't seen this movie in so long that I completely forgot about how this movie ends with closure. And it was very interesting to me. So I'm just going to talk about this movie in sections. This is probably going to be a bit longer of a video. But well, let's start with the character of Obi-Wan, played masterfully by Alec Guinness, who reportedly didn't like playing the character very much. In my research into this movie, Alec Guinness bluntly said he did not like playing this character. But that's okay because he happened to play it very well. He's very, he gets the feeling that he's very wise. You get that feeling early on that he has seen some stuff. And if you'd never seen the prequels before, your immediate question is, what is this guy's story? How did he wind up in the middle of the Tatooine desert? What's he doing here? Is he an old hermit like Luke's uncle says, or is there a bit more to him? Of course, if you've seen the prequels, then you know he pretty much dropped Luke off at the Lars homestead, and he's been in the desert surviving for years, and he suddenly knows where Luke is when he's attacked by Tusken Raiders. That detail has always kind of made me wonder, how did Obi-Wan know that Luke was there? Did he was his force sense intact? Did he sense he was in trouble and just decide to walk over there? I don't know. We don't know if his home is close to where Luke was attacked, so he heard the Tuskens and Luke and whatever. We don't know. Point is, we don't know much about Obi-Wan at the very start. And the conversation that they then have after Luke is rescued by Obi-Wan, they go back to his home. And it's an interesting conversation. It's the conversation where you hear that Obi-Wan tells Luke that Anakin was his friend. And that his father wanted him to have his lightsaber when Luke got old enough. Having seen the prequels again very recently within the last few days, I didn't see anything that contributed to any truth that Anakin wanted Luke to have his lightsaber. Pretty much that, Anakin was burning to a crisp, and Obi-Wan saw the lightsaber there and said, well, if the kid survived Padme's birth, I'm just going to have this lightsaber here, and I'm going to give it to his son, and then it's a very confusing. The prequels confused a few things for me, but this movie was good. I enjoyed Obi-Wan and Luke's friendship, I guess. They have some form of chemistry, I guess. But when they go into the cantina, which is one of the most iconic scenes in cinema history, they meet Han Solo. Han Solo was a very different character in 1977. Probably no movie at all up until that point had a Han Solo-like character. I may be wrong, but yeah. I like Han Solo a lot. So much so that I have this book which tells more adventures of Han Solo. It was written by a guy named Brian Daley, and he wrote a whole bunch of stories about Han Solo between the episodes of 4 and 5. Before Empire Strikes Back was even made, he went and wrote this book. So, check it out. It's a good book. I have quite a few Star Wars books. There's been one in almost every Star Wars video I've made so far. But it's a good book. Han Solo and Chewbacca, they are very interesting characters. You learn that, Han and Chewie can understand each other, I guess. And, he pilots the Millennium Falcon, and, it's a conversation. He's basically bragging through the whole conversation. He's bragging that he's this all-star pilot, pretty much, and you haven't heard of the Millennium Falcon, and it's okay. I believe full-heartedly Han Solo shot first. He did. If you don't know about that controversy, go to Google, type Han Solo shot first, hit the enter key or whatever. It will come up and you'll see endless pages about this. I won't go into that. But when they're going through space to Alderaan and all through the scene when the princess is, there with Grand Moff Tarkin and Alderaan is destroyed, to the rescue scene, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? All the scenes that happen during the rescue, it's fairly fun scenes. The trash compactor is an iconic scene, and it's very nicely done. I enjoy the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. Having seen the prequels very recently, the little conversation they have with each other during the lightsaber fight has gotten all the more interesting. Once I was the learner, now I am the master. And then, Obi-Wan saying only master of evil, Darth. He calls him Darth. It would have been very interesting if Obi-Wan would have called him Anakin. But honestly, I don't think Lucas was thinking that far ahead. It's a very interesting conversation, and when Obi-Wan surrenders pretty much and offers his I'm stronger than you kind of pose, and then he gets sliced and he vanishes, that confused me as a kid. As a kid, I remember clearly thinking, what? So it was very confusing to me. And even Vader, he's stepping on the robe thinking, what just happened? Is he dead? And then that's it. And the whole movie, from the destruction of the Death Star, everything, I like it a lot. The only things that come to mind that I really don't like about A New Hope is how complainy Luke is, how annoying he comes off, and how childish he seems. And I don't like the Jawas. The Jawas, they're interesting characters. I'm sure they make great action figures, and they have a story. But I don't like them. I've never liked the Tusken Raiders, really. If you're someone that likes the Tusken Raiders, all the power to you. I just don't find them that interesting. They're just there. And I just don't like just how slow the movie feels. It feels slower to me than Phantom Menace does. And that's really shocking for me to say, but it does. You watch The Phantom Menace. For me, when I watched The Phantom Menace, it seemed to go by fairly quickly. Like, it wasn't like, oh, that movie was so good, it went so fast. But it seemed like it had more scenes that tied together, if that makes sense. The movie tied together so you could follow it a little better. Even though there's endless debates and there's endless dialogue and exposition, it follows together better. A New Hope, for me, it feels a lot more like a bunch of scenes are slapped together because they work. A case in point is just all the times the screen cuts to something else, or it fades to something else, or it's just in a completely different place. I love A New Hope. I really do. Before I go any further, I want to state this movie's going to get an 8 out of 10. It gets an 8 out of 10. It's a pretty high rating. I enjoy it a lot. But I'm just saying that even though it's got an 8 out of 10, the movie is a slow burn. It's a really slow movie. And it is a good movie. I enjoy Han Solo. I enjoy Chewbacca. I enjoy the Millennium Falcon. I enjoy Luke's first training scenes with the module where he's blocking those few shots with the blast shield down. I enjoy how cocky Han Solo is, the first glimpse you get of him. And Harrison Ford, what an actor. I love almost every movie Harrison Ford is in. And it's a good movie. I really enjoy it. And I've had a lot of fun talking about it. And it gets an 8 out of 10. It's well done. It holds up. A lot of the work was done with miniatures instead of green screen, which you can tell because all these years later, I was able to look at it and think, wow, this movie is over, 40 years old. This is, incredible. And it really is. So if you haven't seen Star Wars A New Hope, watch it. Please. You owe it to yourself. Watch it. It's a wonderful piece of filmmaking. If you have seen it and you have a thought about it or how it's inspired you, it has inspired me. Comment below. Let me know. And I'll be making reviews for the rest of the Star Wars saga in the very near future. Thank you so much for watching. Join me soon. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Take care.